Okay, this video shows a new widget called a locator, which uses the new dynamic bounding box and positioning information that's available in the studio, just been released. I'm going to create a simple example here of an experience that is going to show this in action. So what this locator does, it works in tandem with the finder and the other utilities to be able to generate information that can actually be used by something, say for example the wayfinder, so you can locate things. So we're going to start with a simple model, and we're going to just import something. A simple model. Notice we haven't set anything about the metadata. It's all going to be done dynamically. So here's our model, and we are going to first of all use the finder widget, which I think is over here somewhere. There it is. So we're going to use the finder, and what we're going to do is we're just going to use model 1. So we'll just use some defaults here. We're just going to use model 1, and we're going to look for display name, and we're going to bind the value to a string. So we're going to be able to type the value in. So let's use a text input to put up here, and we're going to bind the output of that to our finder, and it's going to be the value. So that's the value that we're looking for. Let's go back to the finder, switch it on to auto. So it's basically going to find things like that have that name, and we're going to take the results. And what we need to do is we're going to do a couple of things here with the results. First thing we're going to do is we're going to use the mapper widget, which I think is in 3D. So the mapper is going to give us colors. So we're just going to take the finder, we're going to drop the results onto the mapper as data. Okay, it's using the same model ID. Oops, I need the mapper. So the mapper is using model 1 as well. It's using the data. Let's use yellow as the color for now. So let's just give that a try and just see what it looks like. Okay, let's make this larger so that we can see what we're doing. There we go. So what we need to do is we need to find some parts. So these are generally called number underscore something else. So let's look for 3 underscore. Quite a lot of those. Let's look for 5 underscore. So we can see we've got a number of items there. So we've got real-time find along with the shader. Okay, let's pop back to here. Let's now use our locator widget. We're just going to drop this into the scene. A couple of things you can see in the locator. It's got, first of all, a label. We'll show that in a minute. Compound says, grab all the results together. The data, well, that's the data that we want from the finder. So let's just take the output of the finder and drop it on the locator widget. Data. And let's just go back here and see what else we've got. So we've got locations. So locations come out. So what good would locations be? Well, imagine we had the wayfinder like this. Okay, we take the output of the locations. We drop those onto the wayfinder. We want those to go into the waypoints data, like so. And finally, we want a way to be able to step through those waypoints, because we'll in theory get a list of them. So let's just have a couple of buttons here. We're going to have one, we'll call that previous, bind that to the previous event, and we'll have one called next, which will bind to the next event. Okay, let's hit save, switch back to here. Okay, so we have our model again. We're going to go with, let's go with 5 underscore, and you can see the waypoints attached to the first. Let's just cycle through them. There you go. So we can see the items, and we get navigated through the list just like you would expect. So that's the simplest solution to waypoints. Now we can do more. We can, if you remember, we had a label field here. Let's call this display name as well. And it picks up on the metadata that comes through, so it's basically reusing metadata that comes through. So let's hit save, go back to our preview. Just for the sake of argument, use something else, just see if there's some other data. We got some 4s, 5s, okay. Now what we forgot to do is we need to go back through here to the finder, and we need to tell the finder to include display name in the output field. Let's go down back into our 5s again. There we go. Right, so now we see the part name, and we can obviously cycle through them. There must be a bug in the wayfinder for those to appear at the back, because that looks terrible. Hope somebody's going to fix that. So very, very simple. If anybody's interested, we can go back here, and just for fun, we can do one more thing, which is we want a list, which will drop here. We're going to use the display name as the primary field. We're also going to take the output from the finder and drop it into our list. And bizarrely, when you do that, it forgets, so we need to put that back in again. So it's going to use the display name to list the items. So once again, we're going to do this. There we go. So here's all of our items now. You can see these aren't very helpfully named, but we can see them all. We're going to start 5048. So the next one's 5048, the next one's 5510, so we can see that the list matches the list. Well, that's fine. Well, what's the property of a list? Well, the property of a list is that you can select things. So we can now jump to specific items, and there is a bug I've found in the wayfinder, which is that if you're not on step 0, it won't jump. So there's a bug in the wayfinder if you're driving it from direct data. But on the whole, you get the idea here. So, and if we deselect the list, it goes back to the full list again. So you can you can take a finder, map it to, bind it to a mapper that gives you colors. You can bind it to a list that gives you items. And you can bind it to the locator, which gives you the physical location of the item, and then you can bind that to the wayfinder if you want to find your item. And if you join them all together and you've got a list, then you can find your way to a specific part just by selecting it in the list. And that is the end of the we should show, of course, no code. So it's all done using a couple of widgets that work together in harmony. So finders output data, mappers use it, the locator forms it into a different form, and they all bind it into the wayfinder, which shows the user where to go. And of course you can control a lot of the parameters from the finder, so what it generates, you can control how the locator uses that, likewise you can control how the mapper colors things. So they're all designed to be parameterized. And that's the end of the demo.